In this movie, I want to take a little closer look at something called the scope resolution operator. And we saw it in the last movie when we were working with static variables and static methods. And it's those two double colons. That's what it is, the scope resolution operator. Now in PHP, it also has a much bigger, fancier name, which I'm sure I will mispronounce, but Pemium Nucodatium. And if we break that down, it's Hebrew, and it means one doubled dot doubled. So one doubled dot and then doubled again. And that's why we have two colons. So that's the double colon in Hebrew. Now, why should you care what it's called in Hebrew? Because that's what PHP calls it internally. If you remember, PHP was developed by Israelis. Sometimes you'll get an odd error. It'll say parse error, syntax unexpected, T, and then you'll get this long word. And you're like, what in the world is that thing? I have no idea what went wrong in my code. Well, in English, that error means that you screwed up the reference to an object or to its scoped attributes or methods. Let me show it to you so you'll recognize it. Here I am in the same static modifier page that we were just working in. You can put this anywhere, but I'm just going to make a bogus request here. I'm just going to say make : an error. There we go. And that's not going to work, right? For all sorts of reasons, that's wrong. Let's try and load that up. So there we are. Now we see the error, unexpected : So that's what it's telling us. And so what it lets us know is we screwed up the reference. So you can think of the scope resolution operator as steering PHP to the right place to find a variable. Where is the scope for this thing? It's inside a certain class. And if you think about it, a static class variable works pretty much like a normal variable as long as we prefix it with a scope. We saw that in the last movie. It's just a variable that's being maintained in a class. The class is its scope. Keeping a class or in a specific scope helps to keep it conflicting with other variables. So for example, we can have this student total students, but we could also still have something like total students equals 20, and that's a separate counter. That's a separate variable that we're working with because it has a different scope. So because they stick around all the time, thinking of these variables as being normal variables, but just with a certain scope, might also help you to remember that you still have to put the $ in front of them, which we didn't have to do with the instance variables. So that's just a little more insight into what these double colons are, and also a heads up for when you get this crazy error message. What does it mean? It means that you used the double colon someplace and you made a bad reference. It could not find the code that you were looking for. The scope was wrong. Now that we know a bit more about the scope resolution operator, let's look at how we can use it to reference an instance's parent as well.